Alright, so I'm back and I'm here to talk to you about The Night Comes From Us. So before I go any further, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the content of this video. My dad recommended me to say that more so I could get more subscribers. So just for my dad, if you can like and subscribe, I would appreciate it. So alright, let me talk about The Night Comes From Us. It's quite unexpected, didn't expect to do a video about it. This movie's from 2018, so it's nothing new. I'm quite late to the party, but I absolutely adored the whole experience. I watched the movie today, kind of like I was in the mood for like a kick-ass action flick, and it's a lot more than that. So The Night Comes From Us really transpires from that gangster horror in every single frame. Slap some bone-crushing, combat sequence and gory gun-blazing action on top of this, and you got this explosive Indonesian bloodbath. What a great fucking film. Iko Uwais and Taslim were, they're so talented and they were excellent as kind of like this match. It's really like this explosive bloodbath when the action kicks in. I was not so much of a fan of the scenes in between. Let's say we compare it to The Raid, because it's kind of like living into that world in some ways. I'm not saying that just because it's from Indonesia, but also you can notice a lot of actors from The Raid popping up into this movie. Timo Tjahjanto behind the camera, like he was so on fire into this movie, and you can tell that there's the influence of The Raid within that movie. Iko Uwais, I really love this actor. Like it's crazy how Garrett Evans kind of like discovered him. He was a delivery man, and he discovered him, and he made Merantu, and then he made The Raid movies. But since that moment, you knew like Iko Uwais is an action star. But it was kind of like interesting to see him as a villain in The Night Comes From Us. And Taslim, like it's kind of like this good-looking actor, very physical. So what I want to talk about today is I was talking about Timo Tjahjanto's work behind the camera, and I want to talk about this video game approach with this movie, because it kind of seems like he seems like someone who really respect the medium of video games and kind of find a ways to incorporate it into his film. I was thinking about his recent VHS 95 segment, which kind of totally feels like a video game just from like the POV shots and everything, but it's something that you can kind of like see in The Night Comes From Us. So I want to talk about his video game approach with this movie, because it's a crime film that kind of takes place into this mafia environment. Right from the start, one of the first really cool action sequences when we are being introduced to Iko Uwais' characters. From that scene on, you kind of get like that Hotline Miami vibes, and there's a lot of also God eyes view shots during the movie that remind you of Hotline Miami. I know we recently just had John Wick Chapter 4 kind of like elevating that to another level, but in that movie, in The Night Comes From Us, you see that from one of the first few action sequence with like this hard-hitting beat, and Iko Uwais just like kicking everyone's butt. And just showing that he's a threat for that movie. A lot of those characters that are being introduced towards the film kind of feels like they're coming right out of a, of a video game. And it also comes from the invincibility of some characters. They take a lot of damage, but they keep moving on. And you can almost see like the health bar at the top going down, and kind of like at some point you forget about that. I didn't have any problem with them like kind of like surviving a lot of issues, and some of the henchmen, the bad guys, just like you kind of feel like they're stuck in a choreography of a fight scene. But there's also a lot of POV shots, and there's a fight scene towards the end. I don't want to show too much about it, but the camera is rigged behind our main character. There's also a lot of moments where the camera is rigged onto a gun or onto a car, and it kind of makes you feel that you live into this video game. So this is why the invincibility of the characters never bothered me, because at some point I kind of like started accepting the universe that was brought onto me by Timo, and I was just loving the over-the-top action, the slow-mos. It also comes with the character design. So you introduced a lot of characters. Two of them, they're two assassins. two female assassins that are like over the top with their character design, with like the blonde hair and everything, and they all have some props and some specific weapon attached to them, and that kind of like make them a big threat towards the movie. And they're all also introduced in some ways. Like a lot of characters that you're being introduced to in the first act are being like annihilated by those two assassins, and it kind of gives them like a big level of threat that towards the film it becomes kind of like a boss fight. I keep going back to the video game aspect to it, but there's so many like boss fights. When they go into a scene, it kind of feels like a new video game map, with the character designs of the villain, the scenes between the action, they kind of feels like cutscenes. All those little details kind of like made me feel like I was watching a very like great video game. So I don't mean that as a bad way, but there's also some Tarantino's influence into that. Obviously there's some like Kill Bill visual homage. I was going back to the some characters like the two assassins, kind of remind me of Coco, one of them. There's a shot during the warehouse fight, kind of remind me of Inglourious Bastard. Whether it's Quentin Tarantino or some of video games he's played in the past, all those influences are being reflected into the movie. But I also mean that like obviously as a big compliment, because this movie is so entertaining. Even though you know it's over the top and you kind of buy into it, it's a little bit of the same way with the first Raid movie, maybe also the second one, but they have some like video game influence into that. But that was clearly elevated in The Night Comes From Us. But I feel like I feel like it kind of like complements the whole film. So yeah, I really love the Night Comes From Us. I give it like an 8 out of 10, but it's not about the rating and how I felt about the movie. Just kind of want to talk a little bit about the video game aspect, the character design, the video game maps, the boss fight. Every single one of them at the end of the day kind of feel like a boss fight, and I love the movie.